In today's episode of Today in World War II, German minesweepers become British subkillers. In North Africa, the Brits and the Aussies capture about 25,000 Italian troops. A U.S. sub sinks the very first Japanese ship of the war. In a message to his leadership in Germany, Hitler announces that U.S. commercial prowess and industrial might wouldn't overcome Germany. Okay. In Ukraine, Germany liquidates the Lvov Ghetto. In the South Pacific, one of America's top aces was killed. And finally, in the Baltic Sea area, the German Navy begins the unenviable task of having to rescue millions of civilians and their army from being trapped in the Baltics by the Soviets. Let's get started. Okay, so on January 7th, 1939, German minesweepers become an unlikely sub-killing force in the North Sea off the German coast, when the British submarines Seahorse and Undine were sunk by them. Now, I'm amateur everything, right? I mean, I don't have a degree in history, I have a degree in other things, but I love World War II and I love submarine warfare. I can tell you that it is quite unusual for minesweepers to take out a submarine. I mean, let's face it, their job is to, find mines in the ocean and detach them from their hooks and render them safe from their own ships getting blown up, including themselves. So they're not normally equipped to to go after submarines because you need to have depth charges, lots of depth charges, typically to kill a sub. Well, they don't, history hasn't told us how these German minesweepers were able to take out these two British subs, but they did. And I just thought that was highly unusual because minesweepers aren't generally the ones that go after and kill subs, especially British subs who are very good. So I just thought that was interesting. What I also find interesting is that for those of you who have not yet subscribed to my channel, you need to do so as soon as possible because I'm having a Christmas sale, a New Year's sale right now, and then if you don't do it, you won't get a special gift from me. What's the gift? Well, you have to subscribe to know. What the gift will be actually, okay, I'll let the cat out of the bag. All you got to do is subscribe, hit the bell to be notified, and you'll get a free video every day. How does that sound? Okay, let's move on. On January 7th, 1941, this was part of the Operation Compass offensive that the British and the Commonwealth soldiers launched from Egypt. If you remember, just a quick review. Uh, after France fell and Mussolini declared war on France and Britain, he kind of felt like it was going to be easy pickings in North Africa. So his colony was Libya. Next door was Egypt. That's the British colony. Suez Canal, very important, very strategic area. He thought he could just send his troops in and walk over the Brits. Well, they did get into the Egyptian borders, but then the Brits and the Commonwealth troops started a big offensive, Operation Compass. This was part of it. Now, by this time they started this in 1940, so by this time they had already driven the Italians back to Tobruk. That's a lot of miles from the Egyptian border all the way to Tobruk. And in this case, the route continued. They were taking tens of thousands of Italian prisoners, almost every day in some cases. And in this particular case, they had nearly surrounded Tobruk, the very key strategic deep water port on the Cyrenaica Peninsula in Libya. And they captured the city of Akroma, which is about 10 miles west, and they captured these 25,000 Italian troops. So once again, the Italians showed that they were lovers, not fighters. Let's put it that way. I'm also a lover. I'm a lover of likes and comments. So if you could go ahead and like this video, just go where it says thumbs up or thumbs down, just do the thumbs up and leave a comment because the algorithm loves that. And the algorithm loves me by showing my content to other people so I can grow my channel. So I appreciate that. On January 7th, 1942, the USS Pollock, a United States submarine off the coast of Japan, fired two torpedoes and sank the Japanese cargo ship Unkai Maru. And why is this noteworthy? Because let's face it, I mean, the U.S. Navy submarine force sank a lot of Japanese ships in the war. Why is this noteworthy? Well, it's noteworthy because it was the very first confirmed sinking by United States submarine uh, force of the United States Pacific Fleet. So, there you go. So, this would be if I was going to if I was going to make a World War II Trivial Pursuit game or version, then I would definitely put that in there as a question. What's the very first U.S. sub that sank the very first Japanese ship in in World War II? That would be it. That would be the USS Pollock. Okay, so just remember that when I finally, go through all the negotiations to get, the game maker to allow me to do this. I'm sure it'll happen any day now. Okay. Uh, Speaking of laughable ideas, on January 7th, 1942, during a meeting with Germany's top leaders, Adolf Hitler, should I say stable genius or maybe unstable genius? Let's put it this way, uneducated, not qualified for the position, who takes on full leadership of a country. Um, no foreshadowing there. Anyway, he said that in his belief, the United States commercial prowess and industrial might would not be able to overcome the Axis powers. Uh, Luckily, I took my my Ritalin today, so I'm keeping my emotions under control. But my gosh, this guy was such an idiot, and just goes to show you that so many times these popular figures in history that ride a populist wave that say only I can solve these problems, and setting up enemies of the state to blame for all the problems, you know, most of the time they turn out to be idiots. And this once again just shows you how much of an idiot he was by claiming that the strongest military industrial might in the world would not be able to overcome Germany in a two-front war. He was already fighting the Soviet Union, England, and now the US could come in. And no big deal. Hey, it's fine. Sure. Okay. On January 7th, 1943, a very sad day, the Germans decided they were going to liquidate the Jewish ghetto in Lvov, Ukraine. This led to about 10,000 deaths. What can I say? I mean, the Holocaust was just unreal. And I do occasionally get people, reaching out to me and saying, well, Don, it wasn't just the Jews. He was going after other people too. Yes, he did. Okay. And I've never said he didn't. But let's put it this way. They were at the top of his list of people to be destroyed. Okay. Yes, you had the gypsies. Yes, you had the mentally challenged, emotionally challenged, physically challenged. Well, I'm not sure. We all don't know this, but I know this. He was definitely wanting to liquidate the Slavs. But he wasn't able to control the territory long enough to get rid of the Slavs. So his first target were the Jews, and he did the most damage to the Jews. So that's why we talk about it so much, okay? Doesn't mean we don't understand that there were other people he wanted to go after because he pretty much hated everybody except white, Aryan, blue-eyed people, right? So let's keep that in mind, okay? On January 7th, 1945, one of America's best and most successful aces who flew a P-38 Lightning in the Pacific against the Japanese. He had 38 victories, but in this case, unfortunately, he was killed in low-level combat with a group of Zeros led by one of Japan's most successful aces. I think it was the third highest scoring ace of the Japanese Navy. They were over in the Philippines, and there's the version of the dogfight was that, first of all, the P-38 Lightning was not optimally um, constructed to do low level dogfights. So I don't know how he got lured to a lower level altitude, but he did. And the word is that he didn't drop his drop tanks. and that caused his P-38 to stall with that extra weight, and he tumbled in the ground and he was killed that way. So he wasn't necessarily killed by Japanese bullets or cannon fire. He was killed in a dogfight with them, and they brought him down to their terms and their best altitude to fight. And he just lost control of his aircraft for a few seconds, and next thing you know, because he's right there on the deck, and that caused the fight. Excuse me, caused the crash. And so he died with 38 victories. And finally, in January 7, 1945, this is the end of times for the Third Reich on the Eastern Front. The Red Army had trapped a nice big chunk of the Wehrmacht in the Baltic area, in Danzig and in Latvia. And so the Kriegsmarine, the German Navy, had the unenviable task of trying to rescue them. So they had to run the gauntlet of Soviet subs, Soviet attack planes, bombers, and they were to save the civilians and the army. They were going to have to evacuate well over 1 million souls, and there was a lot of tragic events happened here because the Soviets were not going to let those. They didn't care if it was civilian troops or army. They were going to sink every single one if they could. And we'll see moving forward in this series that there was a lot of tragedy there. A lot of civilians got killed in submarine attacks and so on and so forth. So this is when it began the operation to uh, save these German civilians and troops from being trapped behind the Red Army's lines in the Baltic and Danzig areas. So that was how it happened today on January 7, 1945. I'm so glad you tuned in. I can't wait to get you another video tomorrow.